In order to do cookie-based authentication, which is what we're going to end up doing, we're going to need to have a cookie at some point. So in order for this to eventually end up working, we're going to have to be able to set a cookie with some value that we don't have at the moment. So let's actually comment this out for a second. And let's switch things around a little bit. Let's actually look at another route, because we're going to have a route that ends up getting us an actual cookie when the user ends up logging in. So let's describe a post route. And we'll say a post route with correct credentials. We're going to say it returns a 20, not really going to end up sending any data back. So let's say it's going to end up returning a 204 with a cookie, which we can end up using later on. So here we're going to do a post, and we're going to send some data, and we have some usernames and passwords. So we're going to send username, let's try Larry, password Larry, and let's write an expectation that we expect to get a 204, no data, but we'll also test for the cookie as well. So we get a 404 because this route doesn't exist. And let's go in and start setting up this route. There's going to be a little bit of work that we're going to have to do here. So this is going to be a post for /API sessions, where we create the session, request, response, next. And we're going to have our user, we want to have nice thin routes. So we're going to have a user do most of the heavy lifting for us. We're going to tell the user, hey, look, we want to authenticate with the request.body. This is going to end up giving us a user. And we're going to be optimistic and say that we've actually have a session object, which we don't, which we're going to end up setting for the user. And if there's any problems that we run into here, which we'll also test for, we'll end up doing a catch for next. And we get a 500 error, and if we end up looking at this error, we'll see that the user is not defined. And what we can end up doing here is start building this out. And if we end up going over to our user object, let's first of all export our models. Let's go over to our app. Let's bring this in. Destructure this. And we're going to keep on getting these 500 responses. Here we've got user authenticate is not a function. I think we could also do here, just to maybe get this to, well, let's keep it at this at the moment. But here we're seeing what our error is. So let's actually set up this authenticate method. So we've got user authenticate, and this is going to be a function. And here we're just going to say this find one. We're going to put a where here, and we'll assume we're going to have a username and a password. Where are we going to end up getting that from? Well, we're going to pass in credentials, and here we'll say username and password. We're going to make sure they send that to us. We're getting these from credentials, and we could end up just returning that. Right? And again, we're still going to end up getting 500 errors, and this is because we actually need to put our body parser in here. So we'll go back up to our app. We'll say app.use express.json. And again, still 500 errors. And And it says we can't set property user of undefined. So what's undefined here? Well, what's undefined is going to be the session. And so here, let's actually set up our sessions. And our sessions are going to need a secret. So let's go over here and let's pass in another value for secret. And we're going to use our express sessions, which we're going to have to bring in. And we'll say app.use. We can just require an inline express session. This is a function. If we just called this function, first of all, we're going to have to install our express session. Again, this is an app dependency, not a dev dependency. We'll get that, run this again. And we'll actually, if we go up here, we'll get a different message that we need to have the secret option for sessions. So we can go over here and put in secret equals process environment secret. And here, we take a look at this. We're probably not sending a response here, so let's take a look at our response. So here we actually are able to set the session. And let's go over here and let's say response send status 204. We're not sending any data. We are now getting our 204. But let's go back to our spec and just make sure that we actually have a cookie. So we'll go over here and we'll say we expect response.headers set cookie, because that's how the cookie is going to get set. Let's just make it truthy. And we could see that's actually getting set. If you want to see that cookie, you could console.log response.headers, and you'll see the responses, and you'll see the cookie that's being set, and this is express session that's setting the cookies. And now we actually have a way to use this route up in this test to get this test to pass. So fair amount of work sort of setting that up. But again, set it up within the context of this test. So we end up having this route, and we could also test it out with incorrect credentials as well. It's probably easy enough. Probably a good place to do this. So we'll say with incorrect credentials, this is going to return a 401 that you're not authorized. Change it to Leary. And here we expect to get a 401. And we don't. We're still getting a 204. So let's just fix that. And we'll do this right in our data layer. We'll go over here. What we could end up doing here is we could make this asynchronous. This could be our user. And we could just say, hey, look, if you have a user, return the user. Okay? And if we end up making it down here, what we could end up doing is we could just throw an error. And we'll say the error is going to end up being that we have a status of 401. So we'll come in here, we won't end up finding a user. And again, all of our lifting is really being done in our data model, and this ends up passing as well.